Hey Sam, if you're watching this, you have received an ancient weapon as a gift from two of your friends, and you need to know how to use it. So I'm going to go over your new NeoPixel saber and show you all of its features and all of its basic components. So I'm going to start with the outside of your hilt here. I have not done anything to it, no special weathering or anything. This is just how the saber comes. It's nice and clean. Up here you have your blade plug, which is removable to then insert your NeoPixel lightsaber blade. Turning the saber a little bit reveals a retention screw that's used to hold in your blade plug and to also loosen to take that out and to put in your blade and hold that in place as well. Right here there's two little greeblies. This one, if you can hear that clicking, that is your button underneath that. This one is static and doesn't do anything. It's just for the design of the saber. And that is pretty much it. Down here is your pommel. You'll be unscrewing this to get access to your custom chassis that I designed and printed through 3D Printing Alchemy. There's a store on Etsy. Really great experience with them. The guy was super helpful with getting my design printed and just telling me what I needed to do to get it to print properly and not break and such. So super cool working with him. So let's get to your chassis and I'll show you that right now. So your pommel unscrews from actually two different places. This silver part and this black part are two different pieces. So you'll want to just unscrew it all together like this. There's three O-rings in here and they just act as a spacer so that the chassis sits in your hilt in the right place. So you can just tilt your saber down and the chassis will slide out. If there's a battery in, sometimes it's a little bit tougher and tighter in there. So you can kind of just bump your saber a little bit and it should come out really easily. With me handling it, it has been really easy to get that in and out. So this is your chassis. So there's a little bit going on here that I'll go over. I put some words in Arabic. So this right here actually is for me, and it says Tano Sabers. So it's T.Ano Sabers. Right here it says Revan, and then up towards the top, this is an S and this is an R, so Sam's Revan. So up here you have your NeoPixel pogo pins. These are what transfer power and data to the NeoPixel blade. This right here is your button that sits behind this little plunger switch right here. Right here is your crystal chamber, and it has one little pixel behind it to light it up. And you'll see that in a second. This is your CFX soundboard. The micro SD card is in here, and you do have access to it. You'll need a little pair of pliers. I think I can kind of do it with my fingers actually, but it could be a little bit difficult. But if down the road you want to add more fonts onto your saber, you can. And what sound fonts are just basically specific saber sounds that are centered around different characters and such. So it'll have different ignitions, quotes, saber swings, all that stuff. So I'll be demoing that here too. This whole section here is your battery cradle. The spring side down here being your negative, and this part up here is your positive. Down at the bottom we have a KR Sabers 28mm speaker. This is usually the biggest speaker that they'll put in lightsabers, so the saber is particularly loud, which is good, and it sounds really good. But yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put the battery in and get your saber booted up. So this is the battery that you will be receiving. It's an 18650 battery, and it has a little positive and negative demarcations on it. I'm not going to use this for right now. I'm going to use just my own personal battery. It's the same exact one, but I use this to test sabers and such. So to put it in, this flat side of the battery is your negative. Top part, the little button top, is your positive. So you want to put it in negative first, push down, Dark Lord of the Sith, and just snap it in like that. So from here I can show you the crystal chamber. Really cool. Your NeoPixel connector up here is also lit up. These are stock V3 MPXLs. So when they're in the saber, they actually light up your blade plug as well, and I'll show you that. So when putting your chassis into your hilt, you do not want any metal touching these pins. These essentially are the live ends of the wires in your chassis here. And so if you were to touch metal, it would bridge different wires together, and that could cause a short circuit and damage your electronics. So when you're putting it into the hilt, just go really slow. I like to just kind of put it in at an angle right here and put the lip of the chassis in the hole first, and then just kind of tilt it in. And you want to line up this button with this black strip, which is leading to your plunger switch up here. The chassis will only go in this orientation. If you put it in like this, it won't go in all the way, won't go in all the way, this, and it'll go in all the way. And I designed it like that so you can't put it in improperly. So if you notice, this is incorrect. Once you put it in correctly, it goes in all the way. You just thread your pommel cap back on, and you'll notice at the last couple threads, you'll feel a little bit of pressure, and that's just the O-rings pushing the chassis into place. So you can just do a short press of the button, turns on your saber. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera around and demo with the blade in it. All right, so once you got your battery in and you're ready to put in a blade, you just want to find your retention screw here and use your Allen key to back that out a little bit. 3 or 4 turns should do it. The blade plug can be removed. And then you take your NeoPixel blade. The bottom has this little plate, and it makes contact with your pins inside the chassis. So what you want to do is insert your blade, and you can actually hear it touch the pins when you're inserting it. And then you'll also be able to feel, if you put a little bit of pressure, that the pogo pins have a little bit of spring action. So you want to press down just a little bit, just to make sure that there's good contact between those components. And then you want to tighten this down to hold it in place. Just a couple turns when you feel it tight should be enough. You don't have to crank down too hard on it. These sabers do feature smooth swing. So this saber does utilize a 1-button setup. A lot of sabers are 2-button. So I'll go over the controls for this particular configuration. So I think I mentioned it earlier, just a little short press turns on the saber. And then you press and hold to turn it off. And then when it's off, you can actually double tap to turn on a music track for that font. And then you can still use your saber as normal with the music playing. And then double tap to turn the music back off, and it actually pauses it, so it'll resume that song from where it left off when you double tap again. So when the saber's on, it has a couple of different features. Hitting the saber or your hilt will do a saber clash. These saber blades utilize a thin wall rather than a thick wall, so they're not meant for heavy dueling, but you can hit it against stuff, kind of medium to light, and it shouldn't be any problem. Tapping the button will do a blaster deflect. And it doesn't really show very well on camera with this color, but there are little white spots that flash as if like a blaster hit the blade. Holding the button and hitting the saber will initiate a blade lockup. And then you just release the button to stop it. CFX also features a blaster, like a battle mode, basically. And so what you do to activate that is you do a blaster deflect by tapping the button while it's on, and do a hard swing right after, and it'll initiate it. So I'll kind of demo that because it's a little bit confusing. So I'm going to try to show you that I'm not pressing any buttons to trigger more blaster deflects as I move the saber. When you stop swinging, it'll automatically turn off. So that's as if you're just moving the saber around, blocking blaster deflects one after the other. Each sound font also has quotes for whatever character it is for. So to activate those, you turn on your saber, and then you press and hold the button and do a hard swing. It's a little bit tricky to activate, so it'll take some time to get used to it, but sometimes they're also force sounds, so force or quotes. So this one's got a couple different ones. So force push, and one of them sounds like a little bit like a choke. So yeah, that is the custom font that I put on your saber. It is from Korbanth, but it also has, I think, a little over 10 stock fonts that come on every CFX board. So I'll demo at least one of those just to show you how to change fonts. So to do that, you want to press and hold the button until it says sound bank selection.
Korbanth Revan.
So that's your Revan font.
Audio player.
So
SD card system menu.
System menu, actually, before I move on. That'll allow you to change the volume of your saber as well as a couple other things, but the most important is the volume. So you can just go into that, and it'll actually light up the blade in accordance with your sound volume, and you just tap the button to up the volume, and then when you have it where you want it, you can just press and hold. So let's move on to the fonts.
Exit menu.
Nightfall.
So that's the very first one. We'll just demo that one for right now. It's a nice slow ignition, the red blade. So as you can tell, it started off purple, and now you have a red blade. You can actually pick whatever blade color that you want. And in order to do that, you turn the saber on, and then you press and hold the button and twist your hilt.
Spectrum.
And it'll say Spectrum, and then you can switch to whatever you want. So let's see. Orange is pretty cool. So yeah. And then on top of the blade color, you can actually change the blade profile. So right now, you can kind of tell off of the lighting in the background that it's kind of flickering. So that's the blade profile. So in order to do that, you do the same thing that you do for a blade color, but you keep holding the button.
Spectrum.
Keep holding.
Blade profiles.
So then you can release, and then you can cycle through by twisting the saber. This one's kind of a flame-ish kind of blade. It's kind of pulsing, slower, kind of unstable. This one's actually the fire blade. It's a little bit of a faster fire blade. Pulsing and flickering. And then just a couple different iterations of that. So yeah, you can mess around with that. There's a lot of cool ones on here. And you can just tap the button when you find what you want. So I'll put it back on the Revan font real quick.
Nightfall.
Crystal.
Nebula.
Bring me.
You just tap the button to cycle through the fonts.
Revolt. Shadow. Support subject. The older.
Youngling.
This is General Kenobi.
Ancient prophecies.
So Ancient Prophecies is where the stock fonts end. So after that, it's the custom fonts.
Korbanth Revan. Dark Lord of the Sith.
Super cool. And then if we want to take the battery back out and everything, it's basically just the reverse process. Tilt the saber down and it actually just slides out really easily. Just put that flat. And then when taking the battery out, what I usually do is I cut my hand and I hit this part of the chassis a little bit. And I bump it and the battery just falls right out. I'll be including a battery charger with your saber. So you'll just remove the battery and pop it in the charger when you want to recharge it. So yeah, that is your saber and all of its functions. If you have any questions or if you're having any issues with it, feel free to just let me know. I'll always be around to do maintenance, add fonts, whatever you want. So just let me know. Hope you enjoy your saber. It's really exciting that your friends have surprised you with this. So really excited to see your reaction and just hope you enjoy it, man. Thanks.